Order for the regular meeting of the City Council, January 21, 2005. It's 5 p.m. First item on the agenda is that council and speak on any matter. There is no one here to speak. There is no one requested to speak, and therefore, ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Kennedy's absence is noted. Councilmember Valles.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McEachron.
Here.
Mayor Cox.
Here. We have next item would be on this agenda at 5 o'clock would be the closed session item. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Cox. We have 3 closed session items. 2 are existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. It is SEC versus Southern California Logistics Airport et al. That's a City Council and Airport Authority agenda item. The third item is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The property is what's referred to as the Highway 18 Bridge. The negotiating parties are Protec Minerals and Doug Robertson, and we are discussing price and terms. To the extent there's reportable action, we will report that at the conclusion of the closed session or immediately at the commencement of the 6 o'clock meeting.
Are there any questions of the attorney? No question of the council. At 5:01, we will adjourn to executive session. Thank you.
Our fiscal year for CDBG Home starts on July 1st, but there's a process that has to get started well in advance of the fiscal year, which includes an application process that we're currently in that process right now. Applications are due on January 23rd, and then in the next council meeting we'll actually be establishing a selection committee that will actually review applications that have been submitted, make sure that those applications are eligible. They'll determine eligibility, they'll score them, rank them, and then basically make eventual recommendations for award. Currently we're envisioning that just over $1 million is going to be allocated in CDBG funds, which will be available for public service projects, construction projects, and administrative operations. And then also an additional $299,000 for home eligible projects. The public hearing before you tonight is to take testimony only. There's no official action being requested or required of the council this evening. It's just to take testimony from members of the public, and also taking that comment and using it to help guide your selection process.
Thank you for that input. So we have a number of people. Our speaker is Michelle Clark. Yes, come up to the microphone, please, and speak into the microphone. And she represents the High Desert Homeless Services, Inc.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to come to you and tell you guys, first of all, thank you. We have been a recipient of the CDGB grant in the past, and we are very grateful for that. Our services this year have been able to house 157 Victorville residents. A total of 500 residents came through our shelter. 35 to 40% of those were children. Our shelter is designed to help people who have lost their homes due to loss of income or natural disaster, to reestablish employment and reestablish stable housing, So I just wanted to have you keep us in mind for this year as you go through your applications, and we're still very successful and we're keeping moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, before we call on the next individual, my timekeeping thing is not working, and so somebody. Okay, the next individual is Angela Gardner, Regional Director of Workforce and Career Development, representing Goodwill Southern California. Hi.
Hello. Good evening. As you said, my name is Angela Gardner. I'm the Regional Director of Workforce and Career Development of Goodwill Southern California. Just want to tell you a little bit about our organization, as we are applying for the first time for the CDBG funding this year. Since 1916, Goodwill Southern California has enhanced the quality of life for those with disabilities and other vocational disadvantages, which includes unemployment, by assisting them in becoming productive and self-sufficient through education, training, and job opportunities in San Bernardino, Riverside, and Los Angeles counties. Our Career Resource Center opened here in Victorville in October 2003, and we're really excited because our Youth Opportunity Program opened in January of 2012. We recently moved both of those locations to Bear Valley and Hesperia Road. We had our grand opening on January 9th. Last year, we served 1,200 adults through our Career Resource Center, and of those 1,200 adults, 175 were placed in gainful employment. Our Youth Employment Program served 120 youth, and of that 120, 50 obtained employment, but what we're really excited about is 30 received industry-recognized credential in training, such as certified nursing assistant, solar panel training, and the like. With the City of Victorville's Community Development Grants Program, Goodwill Southern California seeks to further the opportunities for training for young adults 18 to 25. It is our hope that by helping these young people obtain certification in industry-recognized fields, that they will be able to gain employment and break the cycle of situational and generational poverty that leads to a dependence on social services. One of our success stories is a 19-year-old young man from Victorville that we were able to send to solar panel training. He's now a solar panel installer, and he brings home about $1,000 a month. He just came to our program last year. He's taken some additional funds that he saved and started his own clothing line and has his clothes in a store in the Mall of Victor Valley. And I'm really excited because next week he's going to join me as a featured speaker at the California Workforce Association Youth Conference that will be held in Anaheim on January 30th. So I appreciate your consideration of our application to further expand the economic base and promote greater employment opportunities for our youth and young adult population here in Victorville. Thank you.
Ms. Gardner, thank you. The next individual representing Victor Valley Community Services Council, Midge Nicosia.
Mayor and councilman, women, thank you for having me. My name is Midge Nicosia. I'm the executive director for the Victor Valley Community Services Council. The council is a very old private nonprofit, in fact, the oldest in the high desert. We were established back in 1956. We have not sought funds, CDBG funds, from the city of Victorville for a while, and we actually are granted funds through Hesperia and Apple Valley and service clients in those cities with our services. We provide free services for senior citizens that are poverty level or low income. We have a variety of services, but the services that we are asking for funding from the CDBG of Victorville this year is in collaboration with St. John of God. St. John of God is going to be doing utility assistance as they did last year through CDBG funds. We are actually collaborating with them so that we can access funds to help our senior citizens with utility assistance. We currently do that as well as we can with the funds we have available, but they're actually not set aside for that specific purpose. We do home repairs for safety issues, and we kind of get some of those utilities paid just because we know that it's a safety issue if a senior does not have heating, does not have water, and these seniors are on fixed incomes, poverty level. Often they've had an illness or something that has taken the money that they would usually use for utilities, and they get backed up in a 2-month or 3-month period, and they have the likelihood of being shut off, no electricity and no water. We know a lady who had no water and was showering with her neighbor for several months just because she couldn't afford her bill. So that's what we're asking. So when you will see the application through St. John of God, Victor Valley Community Services Council is partnering with them. We are asking for a specific dollar amount that would be set aside to help our seniors, and we will be classifying those seniors and making sure that they are worthy of that income, that source of money. We'll actually be paying those utility bills directly to the vendors to keep them up and running in their homes and keep them independent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker, the card that I have, is Nicole Aragon, representing St. John of God.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nicole Aragon. I am with St. John of God Healthcare Services. We have a program called Samaritan's Helping Hand. It's located in the low-income area of Victorville. Last year, we want to thank you for giving us funds to help the Victorville citizens, low-income households. We served nearly 200 households with low-income utility assistance and rental assistance. This year, we're collaborating with Midge, as she has told you, with Victor Valley Community Services Council, because we identified a need, and the need is senior low income. With that, we want to make sure that we are touching everyone in the area, knowing that Midge's prime population is seniors. We want to bring her in and start helping that population as well. Not that we don't already, but since she has a bigger base of seniors that need care, we would like to incorporate that into our grant this year. Also, on another note, we will be applying for the home grant. Our facility, St. John of God, is a rehab, drug and alcohol, and it's a 60-day or 90-day program. And on the facility, we are so old, we've been here for so long, that it is run on a sewer system. I'm not a sewer system, a septic tank system, and we want to plug into this sewer system. So we are able to expand the property, which is over 30 acres. The long-term 10-year plan is to have affordable living and housing for veterans who have substance abuse issues, mental health, and other people with substance abuse problems. So we're hoping to bridge that gap and jump that hurdle of having a sewer system available to our clients. Most of our clients, 95% of them, are low income. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker for this public hearing item, B1, is Cassandra Black, representing Sexual Assault Services. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, and I want to wish everyone a happy new year. In 2013, we were extremely busy, and if the last 2 weeks are any indication of 2014, we're going to be extremely busy again. Our last 2 weeks between Christmas and New Year's Eve, we were called out on 16 emergency responses initiated by law enforcement to accompany victims of rape to the hospitals, and these were adults and teens, and this count includes the High Desert as well as Victorville. Another example of just what we're about to see in 2014 as a result of last year is an increase of victims who are coming forth for counseling who have experienced human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Just as an example, a 15-year-old girl who resides in the High Desert was taken by a couple who then sold her for sex, taking her to Nevada, then Texas, and then back here to the High Desert. And she chose our agency to receive her counseling needs, and we did try to meet that. And so this is just an example of some of the things that we're seeing an increase in with our emergency responses and our counseling services. And so with that being said, we believe that we have a strong presence within the community as well as a reputation, and we are committed to being able to be consistent in our services and collaborations with other agencies. And just in addition to our normal activities, we will be facilitating empowerment workshops as well as promoting a youth advocacy program for teen prevention. So we thank you for your past support, and we are grateful to your consideration for any future funding.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Black. The next speaker is Judy Morris, representing Moses House. Hello.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you for putting an emphasis, especially last year, on collaborative grants. We completed our first collaborative, we're completing our first collaborative grant with Rose of Sharon Life Center. And it has been a most amazing experience and has, in fact, we're submitting again for the same type of collaboration because Moses House is a resource center for single mothers who have young children or who are pregnant. Rose of Sharon Life Center is a pregnancy resource center. Interestingly, both of our agencies have, over the last year, realized the need to not just serve moms, but that dads are, vital. We've known this all along, but we've been able to incorporate the services to fathers through our nurturing parenting programs, through the fatherhood initiative that Rose of Sharon has, and intend to continue expanding that aspect of what we do. A lot of it probably wouldn't have come together had we not collaborated. Through the grant last year, we served 3,534 individuals from the city of Victorville. And our waiting rooms are completely full. Almost every day, I welcome you to come over and check it out for yourself if you'd like. We are located over on Anacapa Road, a block south of Bear Valley, and we are there from Monday through Friday, and from 9 a.m. until sometimes 9 or 10 a.m. with all kinds of services that we provide our clients. And I am just so grateful. I really am. I see the push towards collaboration as being a new. It's new to the Victor Valley in some ways, especially through the CDBG funding for the smaller grants. And I see it as being so beneficial, and I'm really excited to see what's going to be happening in the future. And I just really thank you for giving us that opportunity. I think that is all I have to say, except, again, thank you so much.
And thank you for your presentation. This is still the public hearing for the Housing and Community Development HCD grants for fiscal year 2014-15. That's all the cards that I have at this time. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak on that particular item for the public hearing? Seeing none and having no cards, if there's no questions from the council members, I'm going to close the hearing. The comments that each of the individuals have made will be incorporated into the record and become part of the decision-making process when the HCD grants are funded. Thank you all very much for coming out and giving your presentation to the City Council. At this point in time, Madam Clerk, there is no further action to be taken on the item, is there?
No, there is no further action.
Well, that is it, that the purpose is to take all the input. We have done that, and it will be submitted then on down the line for the processing of these applications. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, before going on to that, I just wanted to announce, I just got a note that the system seems to have been worked out, so we should be recording and both audio and video at this time.
Since the system is now working and we've already presented the certificate of appreciation to Deputy Ramirez, is it appropriate to go ahead and show that clip? Can we do that? Okay, they're not able to do that. All right, we will do it at another time. Believe me, it's worth seeing. Do we have any questions in regard to our consent? Not a motion is in order.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, second by Councilmember Vyas. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
Written communications, agenda item, what is it? It says 1, but is that E1 or just 1?
D1.
D1. Okay, I don't, mine's not numbered that way. D1. Agenda item number 1. Are there any questions from the council members? We have a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Garcia. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
D2. I had several questions in regard to this, but before I go any further, are there any questions or comments from the city council members? Item D2, mid-year budget table.
Yes, I am very concerned about all of the positions that are being placed in here and the cost. And I have been noticing over the last couple of years the payroll growing. It's almost at $1 million just from one pay period to the next pay period. These last two pay periods, it went up $61,000. And then all of these additional positions, I'm concerned, especially when we have a salary survey that's floating around out there that we know is going to be coming in. And the way the staff recommendation is written, it's concerning to me because it sounds like these people are all just getting the promotions, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be a fair process anyways, even if I were to agree to these positions. So, and then the fact that Councilman Kennedy's not here, I think that it's important that all of us weigh in on such a hefty, costly, and something that's going to stay with us for a very, very long time. I would like to table the item until we're all here and we get more information. And I think that the council could have been maybe better prepared, maybe met with the city manager. I think that the way the staff rec was written, it was probably written to be as simplistic as possible, but it left a lot of questions.
I can clarify a few things, whether tabled or not, so that you have that information going forward.
Wait, one just second. Are there any other questions from the other council members?
At this time.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment and then you can clarify. What originally brought this to my attention, I looked at promotional opportunities and there was 11, and I wasn't too concerned about eliminating the position and so on, but one of the things that happens in the past, and believe me, I'm out of that mainstream, was, and actually in other cities, I think it only happened here once a few years ago, where there was a claim that because of the promotions that individuals could not apply for the job, and there was a complaint filed with EEOC, and we had a really good answer, and we had really good personnel rules, and we had really good policies and questions, but they made it clear that we are not an equal opportunity employer if we promote beyond a reasonable number of people, and especially if we backfill. And at one time, I don't know if it was an agreement that anytime we promoted, we couldn't fill the position he's promoted from. I don't know if it was a year or 18 months, but it's a part of the overall. I read this, and since there were promotional opportunities for 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people here, I thought, whoops. Before the meeting, I asked the attorney to be prepared to issue a statement for the record that we are in compliance with the EEOC and we're still an equal opportunity employer. He indicated that he would be glad to do so as soon as he researched it, and he couldn't have the time to research it because he just now looked at it tonight. On that basis and the request of one council, I am going to ask the council to continue this at least to the next meeting. And Mr. Webb, go ahead.
Sure. I'll address that issue first.
Okay.
In the past, the table of org has 332 employees currently. The full-time employees with the city is 332, cut from approximately 500 during the layoffs. So we are still at approximately 40% lower to prior to the layoffs. As far as the payroll and the warrants, we would have to look at that and see what you're looking at. I'm not sure if that includes the increased cost of other employees such as public safety. Those aren't included in this table of org, and we have no control over that and or the budget. However, as far as the status quo, we're at 332, still approximately 40% down from prior to the layoffs. So we have not been increasing in numbers. That is part of the reason for this specific title here for the city attorney's information. In the past, it was presented as new positions when one position had the potential of being promoted to a higher level. And during the recession, the council was concerned about what are all these new positions? We can't be hiring. I take full responsibility for adding the language which more accurately described promotional opportunity. We wanted to make sure we're within the law, that we leave the opening, and that's why it's an opportunity for outsiders, because it is going to be an open recruitment. So that resolves the other issue. It is not a closed recruitment. It is not promoted from within only. We will fly the position. However, most of these 11 people out of 332 employees that we currently have, those 11 positions, most of those have been working out of class pre-recession for approximately 6 to 8 years. These are not recent people working out of class. They're either working out of class with a 5% pay currently, or without the pay. For instance, there was a department created years ago upstairs, which now I'm overseeing. There's no department secretary. So we've had a clerk typist at the lowest salary working full-time and weekends covering the department secretary position. Obviously, over six years or so, she has earned the respect of all 3 divisions upstairs. However, it's not a given, and it will have to, by law, be flown. And the law that requires that is no longer affirmative action. It is, however, our city rules and regs, and we fully intend to comply with those. So it is that was the closest that I could come to differentiating what's an additional body versus intended for people who are currently working out of class. One more thing on that issue is I had stated that we are still at the approximately 40% down in City Hall personnel, full-time positions. Some of these have been restructured. For instance, upstairs in administrative services, what we've done is we've had some retirees. We also had numerous part-timers working in the cashier cages. One of the things we wanted to do was absorb those part-timers and eliminate part-time positions totally, with less full-timers working and a greater commitment to the city, and we have done so. Those aren't reflected here because you don't see part-timers. What we've done is, through restructuring, is we've actually reduced some of the positions in order to train and promote from within. The attempt here is to retain those educated and trained people who have hung with us and have served in these positions for numerous years. This was not intended as a free-for-all, and that's why we did meet with the city manager, the city manager's office, and review all of these upon the various directors' requests. One more thing just to note for the employees. I'm not sure, like I said, about the payroll warrants, and your chief financial officer is here. I'd hate to put her on the spot because I don't know if she's prepared to analyze one versus the other, but we will definitely bring that material in comparison studies as we typically do on July 1st. And it was, as I stated, the wording itself was my intent to separate between additional bodies, which we caught flack for a few years ago, and retaining talent from within and attempting to provide opportunities for promotion while still staying within the law and having full-on recruitments. Also, these 11 positions, as the new positions are adopted, the old positions are eliminated, so it's not an 11 additional positions. And the last thing that I'll say, I did mention about the recession and the workforce. I just would like to remind the council too, your workforce is still on a furlough, is still under a 10% cut for working 36 hours a week, just in general, so that you don't think we've gone hog wild.
I have a question.
Yes.
That I may have not heard you correctly, but you indicated that the positions that if they promoted the old positions would not be filled?
Correctly. They will not be backfilled.
So if you go to recruitment and they don't get the job, we have 7 people here who could lose their jobs, in theory.
In theory, that's not happen, because one thing that could happen potentially is there's other positions and other retirees, and now that we only have a couple of super departments, there's a little flexibility there as far as moving people around to other vacant positions as they come up.
Well, I'm hearing this for the first time, and I don't think we're going to make any decisions, but I think
Correct.
the information is good. But, for example, I'm just going to read this. We have accountant, range 40, to finance manager, range 48. You recruit. I'm assuming there's going to be a temporary assignment of the employee. I'm assuming that there's going to be a budget amendment or there's extra appropriation someplace. Question to the attorney or someone, I know that you adopt the budget by public hearing. I would assume if you're going to modify the budget, it also requires a public hearing, but that's not really the question. So you go out and recruit, and Jane Doe, John Doe comes in and gets a job at 48. What happens to the accountant that's presently on range 40?
If there is no other position available at the city, you cannot hire, you can't hire the other position without making room for that position. As I stated,
You can't fill the finance manager position?
yeah, we can fill the finance manager position. However, the accountant is currently in that position. There would have to be another position found throughout the city for the accountant if that occurred.
I don't know. If
This
you're-
isn't-
If the intent, and I'm not picking on
Right.
that, just have to do the first one, if the intent is to open up the finance manager because of the demands, and the current person who's an accountant or in the account range 40 gets successfully interviewed and gets the job, they then get promoted to range 48, that's a promotional opportunity, and the account range 40 then is eliminated on the table of organization. On the other hand, if they have a temporary for 3 or 4 months and then they recruit, and a more qualified person comes in and gets the job at 48, what happens to the person that's currently on range 40?
That's an if I can't answer. It hasn't happened in the 10 years I've been here, and this is the way we've done it, as far as I know.
So we're going to recruit, but nobody's going to get the job except these people then?
That's not necessarily true, because there are retirees and there are people that leave, and there are other positions available. But
We're going to continue this. There's
we
too many
are
questions.
attempting to correct that in the rules and regs. Unfortunately, they didn't come to you at this point, again, with the delay of the class and comp study. What we did do is we did look at the class and comp information we had to date, which is not comprehensive, and made sure one of the things that Doug asked was that nothing be in conflict with that. So we verified that these are not in conflict. And like I said, most of these people are working out of class or provisionally working in those positions currently.
Bill, I think that what you're trying to do is a reorganization, is that correct?
More catch up, if you're talking about administrative services,
If you're
yes.
looking to eliminate positions,
Mhm.
you would need to reclassify those positions, and it sounds like that's what you're doing by reclassifying positions.
No, I'm not doing, that part I'm not doing any differently. This is exactly the way it has been done, other than, this is exactly the way the table of org has been done for the last, as I said, as far back as we know. You put in a new position and you take out the old position. So basically, you have an accountant and you add a finance manager.
The way it's written, the way it looks, and if it were challenged in court, you would lose, because it's very, very biased here. Either you're going to reclassify the position or you're going to reorganize the city. One comes before the other. But the way it's done here, I don't think you're going to have a leg to stand on if somebody sues. Otherwise, they're going to say, everybody got these positions and that's just the way it is, and that's the way it was written, and the council approved it. I think maybe retaining a consultant to help you through a reorganization or reclassification process, and maybe explain what it is you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, rather than doing it this way.
This isn't a reorganization. This is the positions, not the people. We're changing the position of accountant to position of finance manager.
Then
like I
that's
said,
a
this is-
reclassification of that position, and that would fall under a restructuring or a reorganization.
I understand what you're saying as far as the reorganization. This is in effect the physical change on the table.
But it's going to affect the recruitment process, and you have to make sure that you are on sound land before you do this, because if for some reason you do give it to everybody that is in that position, that's not going to look fair to the people on the outside. If you don't give it to them, it's not going to look fair to the people on the inside. So I think that maybe legal should help you through the process so that it's done properly. It's what you're trying to do is reclassify those positions.
And I'll be happy to take the information and work with legal that you've given in your concerns. That's not an issue at all. I did just, like I said, wanted to point out and clarify what the intent was and what the process was. And the only thing, as I stated, this is basically the process we've continually gone through, but we're hoping to change that process with the upcoming rules and regs.
I apologize for cutting you off, but we have enough questions from the council, and if the individuals are currently doing it, and there's not an urgent matter here, we have enough questions directed to the manager, and that we're not going to deny it, we're going to continue it. Is that acceptable with the council? So we will continue this matter till the next regular session, and the council members who have questions, direct them to the city manager or the city attorney, and we'll probably address this as soon as we can get all of that back before us. Can I have a motion so that it'll formally be in a minute order to continue this item?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
The next item, 3, is that D3? Request to ratify the award of a contract to Arizona Pipeline Company for the installation of natural gas infrastructure. Questions? We have a motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, second by Councilmember Garcia. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
The next item is a copy of a previous agenda. New traffic signals, La Mesa at Delgado Road, Elevado Road, Pacoima Road, the interconnect conduit from El Rio to Amethyst, etc. Staff recommends City Council. There's 2 questions here. Appropriate additional funds as follows: $16,000 each from the Major Street Arterial Fund, number 255, Water District 1, Fund 410, and 270 from the Police Department. Approved contract and change order 1 in the amount of $103,703 to Belco Elecnor Electric, Inc. to extend the conduit and fiber optic connections. Questions of staff? If not, motion would be in order.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Garcia.
Item number 5.
Excuse me, Councilmember
I'm sorry.
Garcia, may I get a vote from you? I'll enter that as a yes vote, and motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
Agenda item 5, request to approve amendment number 8 to the General Services Provider Standard Agreement with Astrom Utility Services.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, second by Councilmember Garcia. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
The next item is a draft proclamation, and to the individuals that made the request, it was drafted, and even though the action as it comes on the agenda is to consider the proclamation, I don't see any reason, and this is a request both to Madam Clerk and the Attorney, if the Council agrees, and I think they will, that this can't be an action to actually adopt the proclamation declaring the City of Victorville a Purple Heart City, and use the information that we have received, along with the City Manager and the City Attorney, to make sure the proclamation is in order. Because we can direct that a proclamation be drawn. I just hate to discuss this, unless the Council is opposed to it, but assuming they're for this, I would hate to wait and bring it back and do it all again, when in fact it's pretty simple. It's a proclamation declaring the City of Victorville as a Purple Heart City. We have individuals here. I don't have a card, but you're representing the Robert E. Bush Chapter 2929, is that correct, in the back? Someone representing them? I guess not. Questions of the Council?
Mayor Cox, there is a request as part of this item to designate a day as Heart City.
Is there a designated a day by the county and the state and the federal?
From what I understand from the person who made the request, it varies from city to county. Some cities choose Veterans Day, so it coincides with that holiday. Or
in that case, the question before the City Council is whether or not you want to consider this. And, you know, if you say so, then we're going to ask the City Clerk, City Manager to figure out what day would fit in. I don't want to have a separate day than all other entities surrounding us. Back to it. What's any questions of the Council?
No. You have a motion and a second.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas and second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
The next item on the agenda is D7. This is a resolution, consider adoption of a resolution of City Council changing the meeting to once a month. I request the Council vote no.
This is one of the items that Councilmember Kennedy asked to have continued.
Okay.
Just for
Continue is
clarification.
fine with me. Do we have any members, any questions from the council members? You have the options of consider adopting, consider rejecting, or consider continuing.
I consider to continue.
We have a motion to continue. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Garcia. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
D8, we have an employment contract for one of the employees. And we had a meeting this morning with our acting manager, went through this very, very carefully. And before I discuss those with the council, are there any questions from any member of the council?
I'm just wondering why the fiscal impact is empty.
I'm sorry?
The fiscal impact, why it's blank.
I can't answer that. Okay, to staff. Is there a fiscal impact? If so, how much?
Maybe he's volunteering.
Yeah, I don't think it's a volunteered position. I do believe there's a fiscal impact, but I'm not sure that staff has had the adequate time to exactly quantify it. It is comparable?
I couldn't hear. What?
Staff believes at this time that the salary that's proposed in the contract is comparable to the salary that's currently being earned by Mr. Guntert in his acting capacity.
I would like to table this item until we get the proper information. The complete
Okay.
staff rec.
Before we, I have a question, and then
sure.
You can make a motion. I just noticed something in this. I guess I am asleep at the switch. I didn't know until today that all department heads have a 6-month severance. And, that's decided by the city council. That's okay. I suppose that's coming in. I didn't know that it was a 6 months severance. And I tried to go back and pull out my budget to find out, like PERS, where we're obligated to pay, in this case we'd be obligated to pay. You count the number of department heads, you count the potential payout, and I find it not in the budget. Question? Budget? No. All right, we're going to.
Can you restate your question? I didn't understand your question.
I think what he's trying to say is
It's a potential obligation of the city, and obligations have to be budgeted.
it would be budgeted as a liability to the city if for some reason they were all released.
You have it someplace? No? Okay, well, we're going to continue it. We'll get that question and several other. And there's a motion and a second to continue. May we vote?
Just so that I'm clear, I'm sorry. The question is, because you have a severance obligation in the contract, do you book it as a liability? Is that the basic question? Because I'm also understanding that part of the answer to that question is likely going to be, when do you book a liability? Do you book it when it's actually realized, or when you're just anticipating it?
I would imagine when you anticipate it, just like you would book your sick leave, your vacation, so it should be booked into the budget.
Because that was one of the criticisms that we had a few years ago, is that we had all this payout for vacations and we hadn't booked it. Therefore, we had a potential deficit that we hadn't counted on. I think they have changed that, where now we take all that into effect. I would assume this would be added to that. Yeah, okay. We're going to continue. We have a motion and a second to continue.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Garcia. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
Next item, D9, 4 bid proposals for SCLA Fuel Farm Phase 2. All the bids were open. You kind of got ahead of me. If we're going to be awarding all of these bids, which are extremely high, I was just curious why there wasn't a fiscal impact here.
Acting.
Oh, it's going to reject all bids. Sorry. Why was I reading all of this then if it was rejecting? Okay, simple motion, reject all bids.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachran, second by Councilmember Vyas. Councilmember Vyas, may I get a vote from you?
Sorry.
Thank you. Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
Agenda item D10, Neighborhood Stabilization Program, NSP3 properties. I have a lot of questions. I understand that Mr. Kennedy has requested that this is an item that he's requested be continued. I concur. Any questions from the council members or comments?
I think we need to continue it.
No objections from the council. We need a motion and a second to continue. And I don't see any reason not to have item 10 and 11 and 12 to all be added together.
And 13
And
as well,
13,
I believe.
And 13, all of them, okay?
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Garcia.
Is it understood that that's 10, 11, 12, and 13?
Understood.
Okay.
Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
Item number 14, Resolution R-SA-14-001, adoption of successor agency budget for January 1 to June 30, 2014 for the Bear Valley Road and Old Town Midtown project areas. Recommendation staff is to approve.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, second by Councilmember Vyas. Councilmember Vyas, may I get a vote? Motion carries with Councilmember Kennedy absent.
We are now at E1, which is the public comment period. I have one card from Hakeem Majid Sr. Indicating that they wish to testify. Please come forward.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Council. How you guys doing? Happy New Year to you. And I wanted to say, I read in the paper and I saw that the city was doing some type of workshop with getting different stakeholders together to make some plans for this new year. I really, if that is the case, which I believe it is, I think that's a really good idea. I think coming together, getting different stakeholders together and mapping out the future is a great thing and a great idea for the city. I hope in that conversation that we had, okay, I hope in that conversation we had discussions on community services and resources. I know that I'm committed to the library. I know everybody's committed to the library, but different recreation programs. I would love to see some of those different recreation programs come into play. Some unique recreation programs targeted at certain areas of the city. I think will be good. I think that in working with our police department and our great chief, we could do so much more by working together. And I just want to reiterate my support and thank you for that. And I look forward to working with you, presenting some new ideas, some innovative, traditional, and non-traditional ideas in the future. Thank you. Oh, wait. Jim.
Thank you for your comments. E2.
Oh, one more second. I'm sorry, sir.
Were there any woman directors?
I'm sorry, I did
Does
not.
the city have any department heads that are ladies? Aliyah Majid wants to know.
You of all people know that we do not engage in exchange with individuals. This is your time to speak, and you have spoken. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
E2, discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming city council agenda. Items? I have none. E3, report from the city manager. E4, reports from the city council members. None? None?
Yeah, is this where we talk about our, yeah, I do. I sit on the board of directors for Victor Valley Transit Authority, and we've been discussing whether or not to put bathrooms in the city of Victorville. And at our meeting today, we had some good discussion regarding it, and basically, I wanted to make sure that that the other member agencies did not put the burden on Victorville, because the hub facility is in Victorville, but I want to make sure that everyone's clear that it's not just Victorville residents using that hub facility, it's the entire high desert. So it is a VVTA issue. The problems that, you know, we don't want to burden the businesses because they're being hounded to use the restrooms, and the people are getting very aggressive with the business owners. But the situation is we don't want to generate more phone calls to the police department trying to keep the restrooms safe, and you know, or you know, the homeless taking up residencies in the restrooms, and then the security and the cleaning of the restrooms, and where do you put the restrooms and what right away. So there's a lot of issues. So we sent it back to TAC to look at all of those issues, but it didn't really sound like there was going to be a lot of support for putting in restrooms, because it is not a transit center. It is a hub, and most cities don't do it because of the potential liability to the transit authority. So that's where that lands. And I just wanted to make sure that they understood they weren't going to touch our general fund money, that it has to come from VBTA.
Well, I appreciate your comments and your representing the city on the transit authority. At one time, the city received grants and developed a downtown area as a transit center, complete for bus turnarounds and for changing buses, and complete with food vendors and restrooms. And the VBTA decided that that was insufficient, and they wanted to move their center someplace else, and they did so. But because of the demand, there was a large number of individuals that change buses and come to that location that we're speaking about. And actually, I had two of the business people ask if I would simply come over and observe. And it's a situation that's tough, because people have gotten off the bus, they want to transfer to another bus, and so they want to go to the local businesses. But the local businesses reserve their restroom for customers. They're not public restrooms. And not all individuals who get off the bus and want to use the restrooms leave them in good shape, and they became very frustrated. And so they put up signs as customer only. And then some of the people who would get off the buses would simply find a bush. I know the police department was called. I went over there 2 different times for an hour each. You got a tough decision here. I don't think the city should pay our general fund money for that. There's transit money. They're getting our transit money. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm glad they're addressing it. The local business people want to cooperate in every way they can. They want to be as cooperative as they possibly can, but it's interrupting their business and causing problems the way it's currently handled. So good luck. Whatever we can do to support you, we stand ready to support your recommendations, and I know it's going to be a tough decision. I have no reports from council meetings. We're going to continue. We're not going to. We have some continue items, and we have a regular meeting in 2 weeks, unless we have a need for a special meeting. This meeting will be continued. Is that 2 weeks from tonight? I know we're into the month, or is it 3?
Yes, February 4th would be the next meeting.
Okay. No other business to come before the City Council. I want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this meeting tonight, and that's all the business we have. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.